The night my mother slid a manila folder across the kitchen table and said, "Sign this. Don't make it a thing." I realized I had never actually been their daughter. I was their system, their solution, their unpaid help. My name is Emily Carter, and I was 9 years old when that folder showed up, creased, heavy, smelling faintly of toner and lemon cleaner. The fluorescent light above us hummed. Outside, February rain tapped the window like it wanted in. Inside, my dad sat perfectly still, jaw tight. Scrolling his phone like this was just another Tuesday. The folder wasn't a gift. It was a trap. I'd been back in my childhood home for 3 weeks. I told myself it was temporary. Just help them after Dad's knee surgery. Just get Mom through tax season. That's how it always started. Just this once. I'd said yes so many times it had worn a groove in my life. I grew up in a house that looked immaculate from the outside. Brick colonial in Westchester County, white trim, hydrangeas trimmed within an inch of their lives. Inside, a command center, lists taped to the fridge, timers on the oven, my name scribbled next to chores that never ended. I was 7 when I learned how to scrub grout, 10 when I started cooking dinners, 13 when I managed the household calendar, because my parents were too busy building careers. They called it helping the family. I called it normal, until I moved out at 22, and realized other people's childhoods didn't come with performance reviews. The folder contained a care agreement, legal-looking, cold. It said, I'd continue providing household, management, and personal care full-time. Availability, in exchange for room and board. No pay, no end date. A signature line with my name already typed in. Emily, my mom said softly, the way she used to when company was over. This protects everyone. Protects who? I asked. My voice sounded calmer than I felt. My phone buzzed in my pocket. My friend Jess checking in. I ignored it. Dad finally looked up. We've given you everything, he said. College help. A place to stay. Don't be ungrateful. College help meant they co-signed a loan I paid myself. A place to stay meant a room I cleaned twice a week like a hotel suite. I swallowed. I'd learned young that facts didn't work here. Compliance did. I flipped the pages, clauses, obligations, penalties if I left. A line about property interest that made my stomach drop. What happens if I don't sign? I asked. The room went quiet. The fridge kicked on with a low groan. Mom folded her hands. Then we'll need to reconsider arrangements. Reconsider meant eviction, public embarrassment. The story they'd tell everyone. Emily abandoned us when we needed her most. That's when I noticed the date on the last page. February 12th, 2024. Today, prepared in advance. I thought about all the hours I'd logged without pay, managing contractors, bookkeeping for Dad's side business, caring for my grandmother until hospice took over. I thought about my 20s shrinking into to-do lists. I closed the folder. I need time, I said. Mom's smile flickered. It's really best to handle this now. That was the first trap, urgency. Make it feel like a favor. Make refusal feel cruel. I stood, my legs steady even as my chest pounded. I'll have it reviewed. Dad laughed, sharp. By who? You can't afford a lawyer? What he didn't know, what they didn't know, was that I'd already started keeping records, screenshots, bank transfers, a timeline, and one email I'd found buried in Dad's sent folder that changed everything. If you're enjoying this so far, like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments, where are you watching from, and what time is it there? And seriously, what would you do? Sign to keep the peace or walk away and risk it all? I slid the folder back across the table. I'll let you know, I said. As I walked upstairs, my phone buzzed again. This time I looked. A message from an unknown number. One sentence. If they make you sign anything, don't. Call me. My heart stopped. I called the number from the hallway, whispering so my parents wouldn't hear. The carpet smelled like old vacuum dust and lavender cleaner. My childhood door still had the dent from when Dad kicked it in during an argument about college applications. Some things never moved. Emily? A woman said on the second ring. Calm, professional. This is Rachel Nguyen. I used to work with your father. Used to. Past tense. My stomach tightened. I found your number in his email, I said. From 2016. Then you found the right one, she replied. Listen carefully. Do not sign anything. And don't tell them you talked to me. That night I didn't sleep. Rain gave way to wind, rattling the windows like loose teeth. My phone lit up every hour, Mom texting reminders about errands for the morning. Pick up prescriptions. Call the insurance adjuster. Draft thank you notes for Dad's donors. Donors, always image. By Tuesday, the escalation began. It started small. My parents canceled the house cleaner. We're tightening expenses. Then the grocery card stopped working. Mom sighed theatrically when I asked, "We just assumed you'd cover it. You're eating too." At dinner, Dad asked loudly, "So when are you going to get a real job?" He said it like a joke, smiling at my Aunt Linda on FaceTime. I was balancing the checkbook on my lap. Aunt Linda raised an eyebrow. "Emily runs your whole house," she said. "That's a real job." Mom's smile froze. "Oh, she helps," she corrected. "She's family." Family doesn't submit mileage logs, I thought. Family doesn't get penalties for leaving early. Wednesday brought the first public humiliation. Mom invited friends over for her charity. Committee meeting. Women in cream. Sweaters and pearls. Voices pitched just loud enough to sound important. I was told to serve coffee and keep quiet. Emily's between things, Mom said breezily when someone asked what I did. She's finding herself. I poured coffee. My hand shook. On the counter, my phone buzzed with a new email notification. Dad's business account. He'd left it logged in on the iPad. I shouldn't have looked. I did. Invoices, wire transfers, a spreadsheet titled Household Support, EC. My initials. Dollar amounts next to dates going back years. Not payments to me, entries. Like expenses, like depreciation. That was the second trap. Rewrite the story. Make my labor invisible, then label it a burden. Thursday morning, Dad cornered me by the garage. Cold air, oil smell. "Rachel called," he said, watching my face. "She seems confused." My heart hammered. "About what?" "She thinks we owe you something." He laughed low. "I told her you're unstable, emotional, always have been." There it was, gaslighting with a paper trail. I went to my room and pulled out the box I'd hidden under my bed years ago. USB drive, printed emails, screenshots of texts assigning tasks with deadlines, bank statements showing transfers from Dad's business account to the mortgage. Annotated labor offset. I hadn't known what it meant back then. I did now. Friday night, Mom handed me another envelope. "This one thinner? We talked to our attorney," she said. "This is generous." It was a revised agreement. Same obligations. A clause waiving any future claims. I felt cold spread through my chest. "I need air," I said. I walked out to the driveway. My phone buzzed. "Rachel." "They're going to try to discredit you," she said without preamble. "Socially, professionally, be ready." "I am," I said, staring at the house. All that brick, all that control. What I didn't tell her was this. I'd already forwarded the spreadsheet to myself. And the charity committee, their gala was in 2 weeks. Dad was chairing it. Mom was hosting a dinner beforehand. They wanted a signature. I was about to give them something else. The second twist didn't come from a lawyer. It came from a locked filing cabinet in my parents' office that I'd opened 1,000 times before. Except this time, I was looking for me. It was a March 1st, 2024, a Friday. The house was empty. Quiet in that way that makes every sound feel like an accusation. The clock ticked too loud. I could smell lemon oil on the desk, the kind Mom used before guests came over. I slid the bottom drawer open and found the folder labeled Estate Carter. Inside were documents I recognized and one I didn't. A trust amendment dated on June 18th, 2014. I was 19 then. Freshman year, the year I came home every weekend to help out. The amendment listed my parents as trustees. The house, was the primary asset. And there, buried under legal language, was a clause that made my mouth go dry. In exchange for ongoing domestic and administrative services provided by Emily Carter, the beneficiaries' compensation shall be satisfied through continued residency and future inheritance consideration. Compensation, not allowance, not help, compensation. I took photos, every page. My hands were steady. My brain was on fire. This was the third trap. Turn labor into family duty, then quietly acknowledge it in legal documents while telling me it didn't count. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Can you prep the seating chart for the gala dinner? Use the gold place cards." I sat at the desk and called Rachel. "They put it in the trust," I said. "They called it compensation." There was a pause. Then Emily, "This changes things." She looped in Daniel Morales, a labor attorney in Manhattan, with a voice like gravel and a reputation for not blinking. We met the next day at his office. Glass walls, the hum of traffic below, a coffee machine hissing like it had opinions. He didn't promise miracles. He promised reality. "You have years of unpaid labor," he said. flipping through my documents. Household management, bookkeeping, caregiving. And here, he tapped the trust clause. They acknowledged it had value. Can they force me to sign? I asked. No, he said. But they can try to scare you. And they will. Pressure intensified fast. On Sunday, Mom posted a photo of the house on Facebook with the caption, "Grateful for family who shows up. Comments poured in. Hearts praise I was tagged. At church, people asked if I was okay. Dad told everyone I was stressed, burned out, sensitive. Monday morning, my bank app showed a withdrawal, rent, from my account, for the room I grew up in. I confronted them in the kitchen. The smell of burnt toast hung in the air. You can't charge me rent, I said. Dad shrugged. You're an adult. And you can't expect free labor, I replied. Mom's eyes hardened. After everything we've done for you? That night, I emailed Daniel the final piece, a screenshot of Dad approving a wire transfer to the mortgage account with the memo. Emily labor credit. Tuesday, Daniel called. We can file a lien, he said. It's leverage. It puts the world on notice that there's a claim. A lien. The word felt heavy, permanent. Do it, I said. What my parents didn't know was that liens don't knock. They arrive quietly, stamped and recorded, waiting. Wednesday afternoon, Dad's phone rang during a planning meeting. I watched from the doorway as his face drained of color. Excuse me, he said, standing. Mom followed him into the hall. Their voices were low, sharp. I went back upstairs, closed my door, and packed a bag. Because once the notice posted, there would be no going back. The lien didn't explode the way I imagined. It didn't come with sirens or shouting. It arrived like fog, quiet, unavoidable, and suddenly everywhere. By March 6, 2024, the notice was recorded. Daniel warned me what would happen next. They'll pretend nothing's wrong. Then they'll overperform. He was right. That night, Mom hosted the pre-gala dinner like it was a victory lap. Linen napkins, gold place cards, a string quartet warming up in the living room. The house smelled like rosemary chicken and expensive perfume. Dad wore his navy blazer with the charity pin on the lapel. He kissed cheeks. He laughed loudly. He told stories. They were immaculate. I stayed upstairs, door closed, listening to the muffled clink of glasses and the low swell of conversation. My phone buzzed, Daniel. They'll find out before the gala, he said. Title searches are routine. Good, I replied. I came down when Mom texted. Come say hi. Don't embarrass us. The dining room lights were warm, flattering. Guests from the board sat around the table. Donors, a city council aide, a real estate developer who kept checking his watch. Dad stood to make a toast. To family, he said, smiling straight at me. Who supports us behind the scenes? A ripple of approving laughter. Applause. I felt my face heat. But I smiled back, calm, observant. I'd learned to be both. Overconfidence is loud. The developer leaned toward Dad. You ever think of refinancing? Rates are moving. Dad waved it off. House is clean, he said. Title's solid. I caught Mom's eye. She raised her glass chin high. That's when Dad's phone buzzed. Once, twice, he ignored it. The toast continued. Dessert arrived. Lemon tart with powdered sugar drifting like snow. Another buzz. He glanced down. His smile flickered. Everything okay? Someone asked. Of course, Dad said, pocketing the phone. Just spam. But his foot tapped under the table. Mom's hand tightened on her fork. The next morning, the March 7 the overconfidence peaked. Mom called a family meeting. Kitchen table. Sunlight too bright. She placed the manila folder back in front of me like it had never left. We've decided to move forward, she said. Sign today. We'll put all this behind us. Dad nodded. We don't want drama before the gala. There it was. Image over truth. I won't sign, I said. Silence. The fridge hummed. Mom leaned in. Emily, don't be stupid. Dad's phone buzzed again. He answered this time, turning away. His voice dropped. The color drained from his face in real time. What do you mean there's a lien? He hissed. That's impossible. Mom stood. Who is it? She demanded. Dad covered the phone. Her, he said, eyes on me. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. He hung up, chest heaving. You did this? He asked. I protected myself, I replied. Mom laughed, sharp and brittle. You think this will hold? We'll fix it. We always do. That afternoon, the invitations went out anyway. The gala was locked. The venue confirmed. Dad sent a mass email boasting about record attendance. They were betting on momentum, but momentum doesn't erase records. By evening, texts started coming in. Board members asking questions. The developer canceled his RSVP. The city aide stopped responding. At dinner, Mom pushed food around her plate. Dad drank too much wine. Neither looked at me. Upstairs, I packed the rest of my things, my childhood trophies, a sweater my grandmother knitted. The box under my bed was empty now. Everything was backed up, duplicated, time-stamped. As I zipped my bag, my phone buzzed with a new email notification. Subject line, urgent, title issue, Carter residence. Sent to the entire board. I sat on the bed, heart pounding, and opened it. The email was short, clinical, devastating. During routine due diligence, a lien has been recorded against the Carter. Residence related to a labor compensation claim. Until resolved, this may impact financing, insurance, and public disclosures connected to the gala. No names, no drama, just facts. My phone started buzzing before I finished the first paragraph. Texts from numbers I didn't have saved. Board members, a donor's assistant, someone from the venue. Downstairs, a chair scraped back hard. Mom's heels clicked fast across the hardwood. She burst into my room without knocking. "What did you do?" she demanded. Her mascara was perfect. Her hands were shaking. "I told you," I said quietly. I protected myself. Dad appeared behind her, face gray, tie loosened. "You embarrassed us," he said. "You blindsided everyone." "You blindsided me for 20 years, I replied. That was the moment the allies appeared. Rachel called first. "The board is asking questions," she said. They pulled the public filings. "They see the trust clause." Then Daniel. "They're panicking," he said. "Good. Panic makes people honest." Mom tried to regain control. She started calling people, laughing too loud, explaining too much. "A misunderstanding," she kept saying. "Family drama, you know how kids are." But the narrative had slipped. By noon, the venue emailed, "Please confirm there are no outstanding legal issues that could affect tonight's event." Dad slammed his laptop shut. "You're ruining everything," he said to me, eyes wet with rage. After all we did, I thought about the years I'd missed, the jobs I turned down, the rent I paid in chores and silence. "I'm leaving," I said. Mom blocked the doorway. "If you walk out, don't come back." I met her gaze. That was never an option. I left with my bags and drove to Jess's apartment. The city felt louder than usual. Sirens, horns, the smell of hot asphalt. My phone buzzed nonstop. I muted it. That evening the gala went on, sort of. Photos leaked online. Dad on stage, smiling too hard. Empty seats in the front row. Whispered conversations. A donor spotted leaving early. Halfway through the night, Daniel texted me a screenshot. A board email chain. Subject line, risk assessment. One line stood out. "If the lien is valid, we need distance." Distance, the thing my parents feared most. If you're still with me, like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments. What would you do if your family's image depended on your silence? Would you stay quiet or speak up? Back at Jess's, we ordered takeout. I couldn't taste it. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Around 10:47 p.m., my phone rang. "Dad," I answered. "We can talk," he said, voice low. "We can settle this quietly." Quietly, always quietly. "Through my lawyer," I said. He exhaled. "You think you've won?" I looked at the city lights outside the window. I think the truth finally showed up. After I hung up, Daniel emailed a draft demand letter. Numbers, dates, a path forward. What my parents didn't realize, what they still didn't know, was that the receipts weren't done speaking, and the room was about to turn. The confrontation didn't happen in court. It happened in a conference room that smelled like burnt coffee and disinfectant wipes, with a long glass table and a wall of windows that made everyone feel exposed. March 12, 2024, 5 days after the gala. 2 days after the board requested a clarifying meeting. My parents arrived together, dressed for optics. Dad in his tailored suit. Mom in a cream blazer she wore when she wanted to look reasonable. They didn't look at me when I walked in with Daniel. Rachel was already there, seated near the end, posture straight, a slim folder in front of her. She gave me a small nod. Allie confirmed. The board chair cleared his throat. "We're here to understand the nature of the lien," he said, "and the labor claim behind it." Dad leaned forward first. "This is a family misunderstanding," he said smoothly. "Emily's been under a lot of stress." Daniel didn't blink. "Let's start with the receipts." He slid a stack of documents across the table. The sound was loud in the quiet room. "Paper on glass. Exhibit A," Daniel said. "Task assignments sent via text and email. Dated, time-stamped. Domestic management, bookkeeping, caregiving." Mom scoffed. "Everyone helps their family." Daniel nodded. Unpaid, full-time labor for 20 years is not help. He turned the page. Exhibit B bank records. Transfers from Mr. Carter's business account to the mortgage. Annotated as labor credit. Dad's jaw tightened. That's internal accounting. Rachel spoke then, voice steady. Internal accounting that acknowledges labor value. The board members leaned in. Pens came out. Daniel continued. Exhibit C, trust amendment dated June 18, 2014. He read aloud the clause. The word compensation landed hard in the room. Mom's face went pale. That was never meant to. Intent doesn't erase language, Daniel said. Then he pulled out the last item. A printed screenshot. Exhibit D, he said. An email from Mr. Carter to his accountant. Dated September 3, 2018. Emily's hours this quarter were heavy. Apply. Against equity as usual. The room went silent. I felt it then, the shift. The exact moment the room turned. The board chair looked at my parents, then at me. Ms. Carter, he said gently. Is this accurate? I swallowed. My voice was calm. Yes. Mom shook her head. You're doing this to punish us. I'm doing this to be seen, I replied. Dad stood abruptly. This is extortion, he snapped. Daniel didn't raise his voice. It's restitution. The board chair closed his folder. We need to pause the partnership pending resolution. Mom's breath hitched. Dad sat back down, stunned. Outside, the city hummed. Inside, something old and heavy cracked. As we stood to leave, Dad whispered, You've ruined us. I met his eyes. You used me. We walked out together, me, Daniel, Rachel, into cold air and traffic noise. My phone buzzed with a notification, the Lien status updated, active, public. For the first time in my life, I felt taller. But the consequences were just beginning. The consequences didn't arrive all at once. They came in waves, emails, calls, quiet disappearances, and one moment that finally broke something open. But on March 20th, 2024, the board had officially suspended my parents from all fundraising. Activities pending ethical review. Dad's consulting clients started to back away. One by one, polite, non-committal, gone. Mom stopped calling me. That hurt more than I expected. Daniel negotiated hard. Numbers went back and forth. Years of unpaid labor converted into a settlement range. The lien stayed in place, ticking like a metronome. Pressure did what pressure always does. It revealed priorities. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. Unknown number. Emily, my mother said, voice thin. Your grandmother's asking for you. My grandmother, Ruth, was 91. She'd lived in the guest room for the last 3 years. I'd been her primary caregiver. Meds. Appointments, stories told twice and 3 times. She was the only one who ever said thank you. I went. The house looked smaller than I remembered. Quieter. The hydrangeas were wilting. Grandma was in the living room, a blanket over her knees, the TV muted. She smiled when she saw me. There's my girl, she said. I knelt in front of her. She took my hands, thin, warm. They told me you were being difficult, she said softly. I told them you were being brave. Tears burned my eyes. Dad hovered by the doorway. Mom stood stiff near the stairs. Grandma looked past me at them. You worked her like a mule, she said. And you thought God wouldn't notice. Silence. Heavy. Final. That night, Mom emailed Daniel. Subject. Settlement. They agreed to compensate. Not everything. Enough. The lien would be released after payment. Conditions were set. Boundaries written into ink. On April 2nd, 2024, the funds hit my account. I stared at the numbers, hands shaking. It wasn't just money. It was acknowledgement. I moved into my own place 2 weeks later. A small apartment with squeaky floors and a view of a brick wall. It was perfect. My parents' reputation never fully recovered. People remembered, quietly. Invitations stopped. One evening, my phone buzzed. A message from Dad. We can start fresh. I didn't reply. I sat on my couch, the city humming outside, and felt something settle. Not victory, peace. But they weren't done yet. Peace doesn't mean silence. Sometimes it means distance. And distance is where people try their comebacks. By May 2024, my life had a rhythm that felt earned. I worked a contract job for a nonprofit. Real hours, real pay. My apartment smelled like coffee and fresh paint. I bought a couch secondhand and didn't ask anyone's permission. On Sundays, I took long walks and let my phone stay quiet. That's when Mom resurfaced. It started with an email. Subject line, family update, polite, measured. She wrote about therapy, about reflection, about how painful it had been to be misunderstood. She didn't apologize. She never said the words, I'm sorry. She ended with, we'd love to have dinner, just us. I didn't respond. 2 weeks later, Dad tried a different angle. He sent a LinkedIn message, public enough to feel strategic. Saw you're working with Brightbridge. Proud of you. A smiling emoji, the first he'd ever used with me. Friends warned me. Jess said, they're testing the fence. Daniel said, Mike, keep it in writing. Then came the invite, a charity brunch, new organization, new name, familiar faces. Mom was listed as an advisor, Dad as a consultant. The event description talked about ethics, transparency, community care. I laughed out loud when I read it. The comeback wasn't loud. It was curated. A week before the brunch, Mom called. I let it ring. She left a voicemail. Her voice was warm, practiced. People ask about you, she said. It would mean a lot if you came. Show unity. Unity, the old word for silence. I forwarded the voicemail to Daniel. He called me back. They're trying to launder their image, he said. Through you. The comeback failed because it was built on the same old foundation, and that foundation had been exposed. There was one last thing to do, one final line to draw. On the morning of the brunch, I woke to a text from Rachel. They're using your name. Not officially, but implied. Be aware. That did it. I didn't show up. I did something better. I emailed the organization's director, politely, professionally. I attached documents already public. The lien record, the settlement acknowledgement, the trust clause. I didn't editorialize. I didn't accuse. I just asked if they were aware. An hour later, the brunch was postponed. By evening, Mom's number lit up my phone. I answered this time. You didn't have to do that, she said, voice tight. We're trying to rebuild. Without accountability, I replied, using my silence as proof. Dad's voice cut in. You're still punishing us. No, I said. I'm protecting myself. There was a pause. I could hear the clink of dishes in the background. Normal life, fragile. We're family, Mom said softly. I closed my eyes. Family doesn't cost you your 20s. After that, the attempt slowed. A holiday card, a vague text, nothing direct. The fence held. One night, Grandma Ruth called from the house. Her voice was tired but clear. They're quieter now, she said. I think they finally hear themselves. I visited her on my terms. Short stays, clear boundaries. She squeezed my hand and whispered, You broke the spell. Back in my apartment, I taped a single page to my fridge. A list Daniel helped me write. Non-negotiables. Pay, consent, credit, exit. My life grew outward from there. Savings, plans, a sense of future that didn't feel borrowed. Closure didn't arrive with an apology. It arrived with a boundary that finally held. The last message came on, July 3rd, 2024, 2 days before the holiday. A text from Dad. No emojis. No preamble. We're updating our will. We want to make things right. Let's talk. I stared at the screen from my kitchen. Fireworks already popping somewhere down the block. My apartment smelled like sunscreen and laundry detergent. Ordinary. Mine. I forwarded the text to Daniel. He called me within minutes. You don't owe them a meeting, he said. But if you respond, do it clean. Clean meant short, documented, final. I typed slowly. Any communication should go through counsel. I'm not interested in further financial or emotional entanglement. I wish you well. I hit send. My hands didn't shake. That was the moment I knew it was over. Not because they stopped trying, but because I had stopped waiting. A week later, a certified letter arrived. Estate update, no surprises, no apologies, just paperwork. I filed it away and went on with my day. Life filled in the space they'd taken. By August, I signed a full-time offer at Brightbridge, benefits, a salary that felt unreal. I started therapy, not to fix myself, but to learn what normal felt like. Turns out, normal doesn't require earning your right to exist. I took a weekend trip upstate, hiked a trail without checking my phone, ate dinner alone at a bar and liked it, bought groceries without calculating who owed whom. One afternoon, I ran into someone from my parents' old circle at a coffee shop. She hesitated, then smiled awkwardly. You're brave, she said, like it was a confession. I'm just honest, I replied. Grandma Ruth passed quietly in September. I flew in for the service, sat in the back, left early. Before I went, she pressed an envelope into my hand. Inside was a note in shaky cursive. You were always worth more than you were given. I framed it. I haven't been back to the house. I don't need to see it to know what it represents now. Not power, not control. Just an asset with a history that can't be erased. Sometimes people ask if I regret it. The lien, the fallout, the distance. I don't. Because here's the truth they never wanted to face. Love that requires silence isn't love. Family that demands free labor isn't family. And peace that cost you your life isn't peace at all. I learned that boundaries don't make you cruel. They make you visible. If you stayed with me through this whole story, like and subscribe. It tells the algorithm this kind of truth matters. And tell me in the comments. Where are you watching from, and what time is it there? More importantly, what boundary are you learning to hold? I'm Emily Carter. I was treated like free labor for 20 years, and I chose myself.